Hey everyone, Shane here with etrailer.com. Today I have a 2017 Audi Q7. I'm going to walk through how to install Stealth Hitch Towing Kit. Why would we need the Stealth Hitch Towing Kit? Well, let's say we purchased the hitch with the receiver tube on it for bike racks and cargo carriers. That one's not designed for towing. In my opinion, rather than getting the receiver tube for your bike racks and cargo carriers, and then later on down the road buying the ball mount and the wiring, if you have any thought in your mind that you're ever going to tow, just buy the kit. Get the kit that comes with everything in it, because you do have to remove your fascia to put the hitch on, and you will have to remove the fascia to put the wiring on. So it's better to do it all at one time. Cut out this bottom section one time, reinstall it all when it's all done, and then you're finished. If you buy them separate, you're going to have to take the fascia off twice. You're going to have to cut extra off and then reinstall everything again. This kit is going to come with the ball mount. The ball is going to have to be mounted to the bracket. Just make sure you follow the instructions for torquing the nut. This is going to install the same way that your receiver tube installs. Push it up into place until it clicks. It's going to remove the same way, and it's going to lock the same way. Now, the nice thing about this kit is not only does it come with a 7-pole plug, but it's also going to come with installed on the wiring itself. It's going to come with your reverse wire and your brake controller wire if you happen to have a trailer that has brakes on it. Another nice thing, it's going to come with an adapter. What this adapter is, if you pull a trailer that has a 4-pole plug, you simply plug the 7-pole into your plug here, then you can put in a 4-pole plug from a trailer. This kit's going to come with everything you need to get it installed. You're going to have plenty of wire, not only to get to the wiring inside that you need to tie into, but also to get to your battery. It's going to come with your bracket to attach your 7-pole plug, and as I mentioned before, the 4-pole adapter. As far as the installation process, it's really not that difficult. It's pretty straightforward. It is a little bit time consuming because you do have to take the fascia off, which is why I recommend it. If you ever plan on towing, go ahead and install the wiring along with the hitch, so you're taking the fascia off all at one time. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's walk through how to get it installed. To start our installation, on each side of the vehicle, behind the tire, we're going to remove 2 screws with a T25 Torx bit that are right here on the inside, holding our fender liner in place. Then we're going to pull our fender liner back. We're going to have one right here we need to remove. On the underside, on each side, we're going to have 4 screws we need to remove. 2 on the outside, we're going to have 2 right here. This is going to be towards right behind the rear wheel. And then on the lower part of our fascia, left and right of center, we're going to have 2 screws we need to remove. And we're going to take some tape if you want to. I like to do it to help protect the paint. We're going to go right here, right where this trim piece meets this front piece. I'm going to go right along this edge. And it doesn't have to be big. We're going to pull out. We're going to take a trim panel tool, kind of get it back in the inside here if you can. There's some clips in there that we need to release. We're just going to pull out on it to get that to pop loose. Then we're going to work down, popping them out until we get to about right here. So the bottom 2 are a little bit different. They're going to have these little wings on them. What you need to do is reach back, there's an opening. Take a small stubby screwdriver and you're going to push down on one and up on the other. And you're going to pop it out of that clip. So here is the bottom one. There's an opening right on the back side. You're going to take your screwdriver, push down, and then up. Next on each side, we need to remove these two screws. Same bit. Because we're going to tape these two edges. So next we're going to start pulling our fascia loose from the top part of our body. And the instructions are going to show using a trim panel tool. I find that I can do it like this. The less pressure we put in between these two pieces in that seam, the less chance we're going to have of chipping any paint within there. So just take your time with it. You're going to kind of push up and pull out. Similar to that. We're going to get our fascia loose to about right here. Then we're going to have an extra set of hands. Stand on this side and hold this piece. We're going to go over to the passenger side and we're going to work our way across. The reason we have to do that is there's an electrical connector located right behind the panel here that cannot be disconnected. If it is disconnected, the car has to get reprogrammed. So what you need to do is have a table, have something that's elevated with a blanket, anything that when you set the fascia on it, it's not going to get damaged. So we're going to set it right over here by our driver's corner. Now with our extra set of hands over on the driver's side, we're going to start working our way across. Go ahead and pull right up here. There we go. So since our wiring is so short here, there's a couple of clips that hold it onto the fascia. The zip ties that are running around there, we can replace those. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the zip ties to give us a little extra length so that the side over here doesn't hit the body. Make sure you don't cut the wire itself. There we go. Now to give us enough room to work where our bumper beam is, you can see where this panel, where my hand is, could make contact here if we move the card out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it back and I'm going to tape this whole area right here so that if this makes contact with that, we don't have any paint problems. Here to come to the inside. We're going to remove the threshold here. And we're going to remove it by just pulling it up. And then we'll set it aside. Now we'll take a T40 start bit. We're going to remove this bolt that's holding down our rear tie down on our driver's side. We're going to take either a small flathead screwdriver or a pin like this. Right in the back here, there's a little panel. At the very top, there's a little slot. We need to get that little panel out to access the screw behind it. We'll take our T25 Torx bit, remove that one. Remove the net here. This panel, you're going to take this panel, you're going to kind of pull it loose from the top. You can see the little tabs there. Once you get the top side out, pull up on it and you can lift it off of this piece and then slide it forward. Give you a little bit more room to work. On our wiring harness, on one end or one side of our converter box, we're going to have wiring that looks like this. It's got some covering on it. This end is going to go down through and then come outside and over to the center to the receiver, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. Again, you're going to kind of have to reach down in this area, kind of down back in that corner, and reach your hand kind of around you'll feel the edge of a plate there. Just kind of reach around it and you'll be able to touch your two hands. So when you take this and feed it around, you can reach in here and grab it and pull it out. If you're going to be towing a trailer with brakes, blue one's going to be for a brake signal. If you want to hook up a reverse wire, you can hook up the reverse wire. In our case, we're not going to be hooking those up. These would be hooked up somewhere inside the vehicle. So we're just going to leave these tucked in here. That way, if they decide later on they want to, they can go ahead and find those wires and hook those up. Next, we're going to take our black and white wire, which is going to be our power and ground. We're going to route it out the same way. The black wire for power has to run to the battery or to a positive source. Our battery is located underneath our passenger seat. It would take a while for me to try and get all of his interior panels off and get it wired up that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out, I'm going to go underneath. There's a cardboard panel that runs underneath that side, and it runs all the way up underneath the passenger side seat. So we can lower that panel, we can drill a small hole in the bottom where our battery container is, run the wire up through it, hook it to the battery, seal the bottom of that hole and put the cardboard panel back up, and you're never going to know it's there. So we're going to get these out the same way before we mount our converter box. The kit is going to come with some two-sided sticky tape. We'll peel off one side. We'll stick it on our converter box like this. And right then, that's it, it's right here. Basically straight back from here. It's flat right there, right in that area. We can take our converter box and we can stick it right against that back wall there. We have 4 wires that we're going to have to route up behind this panel all the way up to here. Okay, this is where we're going to tie into the wiring that's in our tailgate or lift gate. The 4 wires, we're not going to use all of them. We're not actually going to use the red one because on this vehicle, the brake signal and turn signal run on one wire. However, it can be confusing because they test separate up here. So, if you happen to hook this up and you test it, it's not working correctly, cut this wire off and then test it again. Probably going to work right the next time. So we're just going to be hooking up these 3 wires. You have your green wire, which is your passenger side, brake and turn signal, yellow wire, which is your driver's side, brake and turn signal, brown wire, which is going to be your running lights. Then we're going to go ahead and remove this top center panel. We're going to kind of pull down and back just a little bit. Like that. The wires we're going to be tying into are actually inside of here. So we're going to cut some of this off. You just want to be careful when you cut it that you don't nick any of the wires. Now you want to make sure when you test, you have the gate closed. If you don't have the gate closed, they're going to test down on the fascia, and we don't want them to do that. We want to get the proper wires that are testing for the gate. Right now we have our right turn signal on. It is going to be a gray wire with a black stripe. That'd be kind of hard to see the black stripe because it's down on the bottom. Now we'll test our left, which is going to be a white stripe, a white wire with a gray stripe. I'll switch this over. And we need to test for our running light signal. There's going to be 3 gray wires. You're going to have to test each one in order to determine which one you're going to use. You just want to make sure it's the one that when you have the running lights on, that wire you get a signal from. When you turn it off, the power goes off. So now that we know which wires we're going to be using, we can go back outside and we can get our green, yellow, and brown wire ran up and make our connections to our other proper wires. You're going to have some quick connectors. They're going to look like this. We'll have one side, it's just black. The other side has the silver connector in it. We're going to use the wire on the black side. We're going to kind of push it into place. We're actually doing the running light signal right at this moment. So we'll take our brown wire, feed it like that, and close these two together. We'll take a pair of pliers, crimp it, and then hold it together. We're going to do the same thing, our right turn signal, which is going to be our green wire. And again with our left turn. Before we put our panel back in place, we're going to get our power wire ran, our ground wire, and then our 7-pole, or our wires connected to our 7-pole. We'll test it all out, make sure it's working correctly. Once we know it's working correctly, then we can come back and we can put all this back together. I'm going to start with my ground wire. We can ground it on metal. This is a little bit thin, so actually what I think I'm going to do, so I'm going to come over here towards the center of the body. I'm going to ground it right there. We'll just measure it out, cut it to size. Strip back the end. Add on the connector. Take the self-tapping screw. And we'll take our black wire, strip it back. We're going to add on the heat shrink butt connector that comes in the kit. Then we're going to take the bundle of black wire, strip back the end, we're going to add it in the other side of the butt connector. Take our heat source, shrink up our butt connector. If you don't have a heat gun, you can find these here at etrailer. Now we're going to go ahead and get our 7-pole plug and brackets installed. You're going to loosen this screw right back here. You don't need to take it out all the way. We're going to take out these two. You have one here and one on the opposite side. We'll pull this out. Take your screwdriver and stick it in the back side. We'll pop it out just like that. We're going to take our wires. We're going to feed them through here. And out the front. On the back of our plug, it's going to mark what color wire goes where. Take a Phillips or a flathead. We're going to loosen the screw. You don't need to take it out all the way. This little plate will separate. You're going to take the wire after you get them all stripped back. we're going to feed it right in between that plate and the back plate. And we just tighten the screw down. We're going to repeat that for the rest of them. One thing I want to note is even though these are marked to tell you the color of the wire, go ahead, match all the colors where they go. Purple wire is going to go in the center. Once you get them all connected, the brown and green wire, switch them. So brown's going to go to green, green's going to go to brown. Once you get those connected or switched, you can reinsert the connector inside. On the bottom of it, there's going to be an open slot that needs to be at the bottom. Once you get it back in place, tighten this screw. It's going to hold your wires in place. And then reinstall the 2 screws here. Next, we're going to install the brackets. One of them is going to look like this, where your 2 safety chain loops come down. You have 2 bolts that go through. The side that have the nut on them, all we need to do is remove the nuts. We don't have to remove the whole bolt. We're going to take this bracket, we're going to slide it over the top like that, and then reinstall the 2 nuts. And we want to come back and we want to retighten those and then retorque them to the specifications in the instructions. And we're going to have a bracket like this. You can mount it either way. I'm actually going to mount it this way so that it brings the plug down closer to the bottom of the fascia, or the opening that we're going to have to cut in the fascia. Take the hardware that comes in the kit. We'll tighten that down. And we can take this and then use the hardware and install it right on the underside of that. Next, we need to run our power wire. 2 ways you can do it. You can run it up to the engine compartment if you want to, or you can run it to the battery. The online instructions are going to tell you to run it up to the battery, follow the driver's side, and run it up, except dual exhaust, those pipes are going to run up like this on each side of the engine. That means you're going to have a hard time keeping that wire away from anything hot on that side. So it's just as easy to run it right over to battery compartment. So how I did that was ran my wire from here directly across, went over top of this hard line, over top all my suspension components. On some hard lines up here, went over the top of them. You got some cardboard panels, one here and one here. They run right along this side. Take your T24 Torx bit, or 25. You're going to remove the screws. You have a couple of 10mm head nuts, plastic nuts over here. Pull that down, and you can route your line right up to right about here. This is where your battery pan is for your passenger compartment. Once you get your hole drilled, you're going to need a pretty long drill bit unless you take this whole panel off. If you take the whole panel off, keep in mind where your battery is sitting inside the pan, because you only have a short amount or a small amount of space to drill a hole. So if you have a long drill bit, I suggest going from top down. If you have a short one, or you don't have a long one, you need to stay over close to the corner here. Once you get your hole drilled and get your wire fed up inside, we're going to measure out what we need to get to the positive side of the battery here. We'll add on our fuse holder, and we'll make our connection. Next, we need to add our fuse holder. We're going to go ahead and pull the fuse out. The ring terminal that's on here, we're actually going to be replacing it with one that has a little bit smaller hole. The reason is I don't want to completely disconnect the battery. This nut right here is not designed to come all the way off. So we're just going to loosen it enough. We're going to add on this ring terminal, and we're going to cut a little spot in it. And then we're going to take it and we're just going to slide it right behind the nut and tighten the nut back down. So go ahead and cut this one off. We'll add on our new one. Cut a little section out right here, just like that. We're going to take our black wire that we just fed up, and cut it to size. Now that we have everything connected in the back, we can go ahead and make this connection. 10mm socket or wrench. I'm going to loosen this nut. Just enough where we can get the ring terminal to slide back behind it. That. And then just tighten it back down. Once you have it connected, you can install the fuse. We'll test everything out, make sure it's working correctly. Once we know it's working, we can start trimming out our fascia the rest of the way for the wiring and then reinstalling it. Now we're going to test out our wiring using an alternate power source. Left turn, right turn, brake lights, running lights. Now we've tested out our wiring, we know it's working correctly. We need to trim out our fascia to fit our wiring. So from where our hole was that we originally had in the bumper or the fascia, on the driver's side, we need to come over another 3.5 inches. Top and bottom will make it square, and then we're going to cut that out. And that should give us enough room for our wiring. We can go ahead and reinstall our panels on the inside. Take some electrical tape, wrap it around your wires up here. Go ahead and put that panel back in place. And then you can reinstall our fascia in reverse order from the way we took it off. Don't forget about your rubber plug that we took out for our wiring. If you cut a little slit in it, right up to the center, we can take this, feed our wiring around it, and put this back in place. Once you have your fascia reinstalled, you're ready to go. It's going to do it for a look at in installation on the Stealth Hitch Towing Kit on the 2017 Audi Q7.